Aloha everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to this extended stream of This Is Now. I'm Dylan Ancheta in the H&N Digital Center. We start with some breaking or developing news out of Des Moines, Iowa here. 2 students are dead and an employee is injured after a shooting at a nonprofit center in Des Moines that happened Monday afternoon. Police say the violence was targeted, but the motive is unknown. At this point, they say 3 potential suspects are in custody. The surviving victim was last reported in stable condition. The outreach center helps at-risk youth who live in disadvantaged circumstances. This news developing all within the last few hours here. We will definitely be keeping a close eye on this. Once again, 2 students are dead and an employee was injured in a shooting in Des Moines, Iowa. I want to play out some sound from local police there who provided an update on the investigation.
The initial call said that there were multiple people shot and injured. First officers here did find 3 people with gunshot injury. 2 of them were in very critical condition. The officers at the scene did perform CPR until the medics were able to get here, get them up to the hospital. Those 2 people, both students, are dead now at the hospital. The 3rd person, who is an employee of the school, is in serious condition and going into surgery. These are supposed to be our safe spaces. In this school in particular, it's one that the police department works very closely with. And the school is designed to pick up the slack and help kids who need help the most. The ones who aren't getting the services that they need for a variety of different reasons. And to have it happen here is just it's going to be a horrible impact on the community. I mean, the fact that 2 kids are dead, that's horrible enough. But to think that, we've got these few safe spaces that we kind of consider sacred, and now this has happened here at one of them.
Another tragedy unfolding there on the mainland. We also want to give you the latest in the mass shooting out of California that happened Saturday night. At last check, the death toll has risen to 11. It's another terrible tragedy here. We're playing a report from one of our sister stations there in Monterey, California.
This community is grieving as investigators work to understand what led up to the horrific mass shooting inside of this dance studio. They are piecing together evidence and witness statements. Hattie Pong was at the Lunar New Year celebration when the shots rang out.
Heard the boom, 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 boom. You will see the body already, several lying there.
Just outside the ballroom, community members have been leaving flowers to remember the victims. Investigators identified the killer as 72-year-old Hu Can Tran. They would not confirm reports he may have been looking for his wife. CNN reports his ex-wife told them he used to be an informal dance instructor at Star Dance. Shortly after the shooting, detectives say he also went to a second dance studio in Alhambra and pulled out a gun, but it was wrestled away. At that point, investigators say Hu Can Tran took off in a white van that law enforcement tracked down in Torrance and shot and killed himself. Evidence, including a gun, was found inside. The LA Times reports law enforcement sources told him he had recently shown up at the Hemet police station saying that family members were trying to poison him. Folks coming here to remember the victims say the investigation is prompting needed discussion.
People need to talk about it. I think mental health stuff is so real and so difficult in the Asian American community, Chinese community in particular, to get there.
Also overnight, sources told KCAL News law enforcement searched a home in Hemet in connection with the shootings, and property records show that Hu Can Tran purchased the property in the mobile home community back in 2013. And we are waiting to learn more about the findings from investigators. Cara Finstrom, KCAL News.
Happening today, convicted murderer Stephen Brown will have his sentencing hearing for the 2017 killing of Thelma Boinville. On Friday, the jury rejected Brown's testimony that his then-girlfriend, Haley Danduran, was to blame for Boinville's murder. Boinville apparently walked in on the couple burglarizing a North Shore vacation rental, and that's when the gruesome attack unfolded. The prosecution is expected to argue that Brown should be put in prison for life without the possibility of parole. Over the weekend, thousands of people came out for a ceremonial procession for something that we'll likely never see again in our lifetime: the public memorial for Hawaiian royal heiress Abigail Kawananakoa. Our Mahealani Richardson was there and filed this report.
At Iolani Palace, Abigail Kawananakoa's public memorial service was a gathering of Hawaiian societies with rituals of old Hawaii. Kawananakoa is a descendant of Hawaii's ali'i, or royalty, so there was a genealogy chant and traditional Hawaiian wailing. An honor guard of state law enforcement officers served as pallbearers and carried her casket up the front stairs of the palace.
Our ali'i has passed, and the love that I have for her, for the many things she did, her work has ceased here on earth, so we will not see her again.
Inside the palace throne room, Kawananakoa was in a handcrafted koa casket and her wife Veronica by her side. Kawananakoa is the 12th person to lie in state there. The last was Prince Kuhio in 1932. It's also where King Kalakaua, Kawananakoa's great-granduncle, lay in state. The public is able to go inside the throne room for the 6-hour public memorial, and Kawananakoa's wife, Veronica, will be inside the entire time.
I think it's going to be really interesting to watch what happens, because it hasn't been done since Kuhio's time, and in part to Prince Edward as well, but this may be the last time we see some of these rituals taking place.
Elena Farden brought her daughter, Hosanna.
It was very quiet.
This is something that you might see that at your age, you may not realize the significance, but in years to come, you'll remember that you were part of this day.
Bert Nobriga says he waited 2 hours in line.
I'm glad to be alive during this moment in history and being here able to experience.
These rare rituals are part of Hawaii's past, present, and future, and is what Kawananakoa had wished for. Tomorrow there will be a private funeral service at Mauna Ala, the Royal Mausoleum in Nu'uanu, and we're told there will be 200 dignitaries and other invited guests there. Reporting from Iolani Palace, I'm Mahealani Richardson, Hawaii News Now.
It was definitely a moving tribute to Hawaii's last ali'i. Now, happening today, there will be a private funeral service at Mauna Ala, which is the Royal Mausoleum in Nu'uanu. More than 200 dignitaries and invited guests are expected to be there.
Let's get to this important update now. More documents have been discovered, and there's a lot more questions for President Biden coming from both sides of the aisle. And now we're hearing that the Justice Department might begin to search other properties connected to the president. Here's Skylar Henry with more on that.
President Biden returned to the White House this dreary Monday in the nation's capital, ignoring shouted questions from reporters about the latest discovery of items with classified markings. The president spent the weekend at his house in Rehoboth Beach, while the FBI searched his primary residence in Wilmington Friday for 13 hours. Investigators reviewed personally handwritten notes, files, and other items going back decades. The president's private attorney says the FBI took 6 items consisting of documents with classification markings and surrounding materials.
I can think of no reason why the president should have taken home as a senator or as vice president any classified documents.
Republican criticism has been consistent, but now even some Democrats are questioning what happened.
Whether it was the fault of a staffer or an attorney, it makes no difference. The elected official bears ultimate responsibility.
The top Republican on the House Oversight Committee sent a letter to the Secret Service today demanding records.
Any type of documentation that would help us determine who actually had access to those documents.
But President Biden's allies point out in this case there was no need for a search warrant, unlike the document search at former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, which required a judge to grant access.
In the end, we will see this was just an inadvertent matter of filing, in sharp contrast to his predecessor.
An estimated 25 to 30 documents and items connected to Mr. Biden have been recovered so far, and sources say the DOJ is considering searching other properties owned by the president. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
And as you heard just a few stories ago, happening today, there is a private funeral for Abigail Kawananakoa. I want to show you this live picture here. We are looking at the Royal Mausoleum in Nu'uanu. As you can see, this private ceremony has gathered an expected 200 dignitaries and invited guests here. This stream is coming from our friends over at OEV TV, and we're just going to let this play out as the services are expected to get underway in just a few moments. Once again, we are awaiting the start of this private funeral service for Hawaiian royal heiress Abigail Kawananakoa. Now, this comes after a massive commemoration of her life took place on Sunday. More than 1,600 people waited hours at Iolani Palace to pay their final respects to Kawananakoa. It was a monumental time, something that we will likely never see again in our lifetime. The last time a royal family member laid in state at Iolani Palace was more than 100 years ago, with Kuhio laying there. Kawananakoa is a descendant of Hawaii's ali'i. And at the Sunday ceremonies, a genealogy chant and traditional Hawaiian wailing was a part of the ceremonies there. Her casket was brought up the front stairs of the palace by an honor guard of law enforcement officers. Looks like they are slowly getting underway to begin her funeral service there. Once again, it is happening at the Royal Mausoleum in Nu'uanu. Kawananakoa was the 12th person to lie in state in the throne room. The last was Prince Kuhio in 1932. This stream is coming to us from our friends over at OEV TV. They are providing the images both inside and outside the mausoleum there. Looks like they're about to get underway. Let's listen in.
Hello, Mai, and welcome to the funeral services for Princess Abigail Kawananakoa. I also want to acknowledge the presence of His Majesty, King Tuhie Kutia, and his wife, Makau Ariki Atawhai, who have journeyed here from Aotearoa to pay respect to his great friend, Princess Abigail. The King offered his personal protocol to her yesterday afternoon as she lay in state in the throne room at Iolani Palace. That said, he specifically requested that no protocol or ceremony mark his presence today, as this day should be about his friend Abigail and no one else. We humbly thank him for the honor of his presence here today. Mahalo. We will begin today's service by calling upon Kau Cordell Kikoa, who is often called upon for spiritual matters here in Mauna Ala, to offer the opening prayer and also to lead us in singing the doxology. Kahu.
Aloha kia kako aloha. We do come for that time of a celebration today. I'm going to ask all who are able, if you would stand with me, please. Wilun kako olu olu. Epule kako. Mahalo ia oia e kia pua I loko o Yesu Kristo e alakai mawana I ka lana kila. Ai loko o kako e laha ai kona a ala o ka naawau o kia pua I na wahi a pau. We are thankful to you, O Lord, who in Christ always leads us in triumph, and through us spreads the fragrance of the knowledge of God, of aloha, everywhere. So today in this, as we celebrate the funeral of the Royal Highness Princess Abigail Kawananakoa, we ask your aloha spirit to fill this place with all of your aloha. And so we pule this blessing with much aloha. Amen no kia kua pau. Amen. If you know the Kamele Ho'omaikai, the doxology, will you sing it with me, please? Ho'onani kamakuamau ke me kauhane no e Mahalo nohi lalo kako olu olu. Please be seated.
Hallelujah. In 1819, King Kamehameha was living on the Big Island in the Kona area. He was well aware that his time on earth was coming to a close, and a great concern to him was what would happen to his remains once he passed. The great worry was that someone would take his bones to carve them for use in weapons, fish hooks, and other implements, and in doing so, take his mana, his spirit, for their own purposes. So the identity of who would be responsible for his remains was of critical importance. One night, deep in its darkest hour, all of the king's retainers were summoned to attend him immediately. Sometime later, he looked up at all of them, all gathered before him in their capes and finery, and with their own retainers about them, except for two men who were essentially naked, clad only in their sleeping malo. He looked around the room and then turned to the two of them and said, "You two will be responsible for my bones. When you received my summons, you gave not a thought to how you looked or who accompanied you. You know I called, and so you ran naked to serve me. I know then that loyalty means that there is nothing that can ever make you share with anyone else the place you lay me." These two men, Ho'olulu and Ho'opili, carried out that kuleana exactly as he foresaw. And to this day, this very day, we do not know where the remains of our nation's founder lie. The Maioho family, descendants of Ho'olulu, stand as Kahu guardians of Mauna Ala, carrying on a legacy that is now over 2 centuries old. The current Kahu, William Bishop Kaihekai Maioho, will speak to our presence here today. Kahu.
Aloha. First of all, I want to welcome you to Mauna Ala. I'm William Bishop Kaihekai Maioho, and I'm the 17th kahu here at Mauna Ala to have this kuleana to guard the iwi of the Ali'i. And Princess Abigail, by birthright, has the right to be here. And it will be an honor to continue to guard and to protect her iwi. Thank you.
Manuai Kohana Boyd, native Hawaiian cultural practitioner, kumahula, and accomplished artist and musician, will chant the lineage of the Kawananakoa family. Princess Abigail would often call upon him for this chant, particularly during events where her lineage was important. One such occasion was yesterday as her casket arrived at the Iolani Palace, where he offered her this chant as a gift to her. And now he once again, and perhaps for one last time, directly to her, offer her this chant. Kumu.
Ke
One of the favorite gifts that the princess ever received was the gift of the following name song composed for her by Kimo Alamakeowana. He would always hit her spirits, lift her spirits when she heard him sing it. Kimo is an educator, he's an accomplished musician, singer and composer, and he is a wealth of knowledge on Hawaiian culture, and someone that the princess relied upon greatly. Kimo performs as part of the group they call Lehulu. And besides Kimo, the other members of the group are Frank Damas on bass and Kamehana Kealoha on rhythm guitar. Kimo. Wish I could applaud. Everyone here has seen the Royal Societies at events that celebrate Hawaiian culture and history. They were here yesterday standing in respectful vigil as she lay in state at Iolani Palace, and they have been here since the princess came from the palace last night. Again, standing vigil over her casket, protecting her. These include the Royal Order of Kamehameha, the Ahui o Kahomanu, his daughters and sons of Hawaiian warriors, Makakaua, assisted today by the Daughters of Hawaii and the Association of Hawaiian Civic Clubs. These groups and their members keep alive the traditions and protocols of old Hawaii in the days of our kingdom. The order that is associated with the House of Kawananakoa is Haleo Na'ali'i o Hawaii. Haleo Na'ali'i o Hawaii, Iku Nahalani is Hai Lama Farden. Hai Lama is a cultural practitioner, an expert in traditional Hawaiian ceremonies, a name giver, a translator, and a judge of Hawaiian languages, chant, and music at hula competitions. And as the casket of the princess approached Iolani Palace yesterday, Hai Lama did a kanikau, wailing it on to the palace grounds in traditional manner. Hai Lama's eulogy, given at the request of the family, tells of the Kawananakoa legacy. Hai Lama, please.
Honorable Veronica Kawananakoa, Na'ali'i Ki'e, Prince David, Prince Quentin, Prince Pi'ikoi, Prince Eric, Princess Esmeralda, His Majesty King Tuhetia, honorable trustees and leaders of the Ali'i Trust, and leaders of and noble Ali'i, our Ali'i Ahahui, and their members, most distinguished government officials, ohana friends, me kako apau kavelina o ke aloha. Aloha. As mentioned, I'm Hai Lama Farden, and I'm honored to have been asked to speak about our Ali'i as an Ali'i. I chose to entitle my speech, my presentation, O ke ali'i he ali'i I ka maka'ainana. I would note that the princess kindly chose her 3 speakers who are all kahu. So there might be a warning because kahu have wonderful time sharing our aloha. O ke ali'i he ali'i ka maka'ainana, lest we forget. A classical Hawaiian proverb translated to say, a chief is a chief because of the maka'ainana. Little context. I was fortunate to be raised by my grandparents, my paternal grandparents, and my grandmother, my tutu, taught me about the respect I should show and express to show tender aloha to our ali'i, specifically the ohana Kawananakoa. Now, my grandmother was born in 1916, and she shared many of the behaviors, or what would be my behaviors, as respect that her mother, who was born in the Hawaiian Kingdom, expressed to her, and it was expected that she would extend. I guess what my tutu was teaching me were the ku'una, the mores of respect and reverence that her own mother taught her, and the expectation that I was to learn, to practice, and to honor. You see, she was teaching me, o ke ali'i he ali'i ka maka'ainana, and that if I honored the ku'una of my tutu, I would also honor the ku'una of her mother. My first meeting with the princess, Princess Abigail, was when I was 18. Although I had the buffer of the late dear Auntie Gladys Brandt, I was still a bit fearful, for she was a princess. Her eyes, peering through her glasses, asked me, "From which Farden are you?" I don't even remember answering her. And I must have, as she passed right on and moved on to the next person. A couple of years later, as a young officer in Haleonali'i o Hawaii, the princess attended many of our luau and festive occasions, and they were mostly held at the Japanese Culture Center. She also attended many of the special Mauna Ala events, especially those that honored her grandmother, who was her mother. I guess I got a little closer to her having to work with her in the beginning of 1999 when I became the Ikuha'i, or president of the Honolulu chapter of Haleonali'i o Hawaii, and more on in 2001 when I became the state president. The princess called often to ask how the ahahui was doing. She asked if the ahahui needed anything. She even visited a meeting once recently when she brought and sponsored a member into our ahahui, even signing the member's application. As for context, Princess Abigail Kawananakoa was born into our ahahui. Her birth is recorded in the minutes of May 1926, our meeting. It was recorded and ordered by her own grandmother. Later, her mother, who served as our first ikulani ho'ano, or regent of the Haleonali'i o Hawaii. Princess Abigail formally inherited the title of ikuwohi as our third vice regent, a position that was held by her mother, Princess Lili'uokalani Kawananakoa. And she held that rank since 1969. The velvet ahu that adorns the casket depicts the rank of the ikuwohi. In the spirit of the title of my presentation, Okeali'iheli Ikumaka'ainana, I wanted to take some time to address her generosity and her genuine aloha for her people. There have been beautiful testimonies from many ohana, even recently as on the news yesterday, today in conversations, telling of the princess's care for her people. Helping families in time of need and struggles, sometimes maybe a single check, sometimes ongoing care, sometimes taking care of them for hospitalization, or even for their funerals. I experienced some firsthand, unmeasurable opuali'i from our beloved princess. She often would have Uncle Mahi Beamer call me, and he would say, Uncle Mahi would say, "Call when you can. She's waiting for your call." I knew that meant call now, no matter where I was, what I was doing. When I called her, right to business. No pleasantries. Immediately concerned because she had heard someone was in need. And she asked me to find out what she could do for help, in order to help them without letting them know who was offering the help. I must have received 3 or 4 of those calls, most of the times asking for no recognition at all from her. You know, the true spirit of generosity commands no fanfare. If the family was close to her, she might allow them to acknowledge her. But her love was genuine. Her love for people included her support for community efforts, like the Olelo Hawaiian Hawaiian language, Aha Punana Leo. And I know she would be so pleased that the keiki of Punana Leo o Manoa, her keiki, came to sing for her this morning at 10 o'clock. I tell you not all this as a boast of her generosity, for she would not have it in her lifetime, but really to capture the spirit of her duty of loyalty to her role as Ali'i Hawaii. She understood her role well, that was to care for her people. And besides any monetary concern, a generosity, the princess even established a foundation that would honor and celebrate the traditions and knowledge of our race. She has the most knowledgeable historians working, documenting Mele, Mo'olelo, and Ike. Her desire was to create a repository so the people of Hawaii would have a venue from which to learn. Today I shared a short glimpse of the princess's generosity. And how does that connect to the proverb, Okeali'i heali'i ikumaka'ainana? Well, here it is. The princess is my princess. And I know her love for her people. I know her loyalty of duty and traditions. I chose to speak on it as my tutu did to me, sharing this with all of you. And even spent time sharing it with my 7-year-old daughter because I want her to know and to remember forever. It seems like there even may be an opposite proverb, which people may not speak of, but it may be out there. It goes something like this: O kahihia, kahihia ike kanaka. Sitting that we have the responsibility for even our entanglements, that some choose to speak of the attractiveness to sensationalism rather than more important story of aloha that must always be shared. Finally, to conclude, a few points. Number one, today we honor a descendant of King Kaumuali'i, a descendant of Her Royal Highness, His Royal Highness, Prince David Kawananakoa, her grandfather who is buried on these grounds. His mother even, Her Royal Highness Kekaulike, who rests in these hallowed grounds. A descendant of not just 1, 2, or 3 high chiefly lines of Hawaii, but she is tied to all high lineages of the Pai'aina. It is more than fitting that she will rest forever here with her kupuna. Number 2, in her final months, still loyal to duty, she helped complete an ongoing task here at Mauna Ala. She secured new hala trees that replaced the former puhala that died many years ago. And the princess saw to it that the hala returned to Mauna Ala, perhaps even prophetically, as she would pass away just a few short months later. E Princess Kekaulike Kawananakoa e. Ka haunani a me ka haulani o Hawaii nei. Ka wohi vivo ole kupa'a i nā pale kapu o kakae. Pale kapu o kakae. Mahalo ia oe. E ola kainoa o Princess Abigail Kinoiki ke kaulike kawanana. Aloha.
Mahalo. What an insightful and beautiful look into our princess's life. One of the key figures in that legacy is Abigail Kawananakoa Campbell Kawananakoa. She was the wife of Prince David Kawananakoa, the mother of the first president of the Iolani Palace, Lydia Liliuokalani Morris, who saved the palace from the wrecking ball, and the grandmother and adopted mother of Abigail Kawananakoa. She was a powerful force in Hawaii during the first half of the 20th century, passing away in 1945. This song was written for her and will be sung by Princess Abigail's favorite nightingale, the beautiful and gracious Nina Kealihiwahamana.
Oh
When people talk about Princess Abigail, the first thing that often comes out is her support for many Hawaiian causes, such as the Iolani Palace, Mauna Ala, Ahapuna Leo, and Mary Monarch. No one ever spoke with greater eloquence about her good works than Kamaki Kanahele. A longtime community leader and community healer of the Waianae Coast. The legacy of Kamaki and his mother, Agnes Cope, can no better be seen than in the Dr. Agnes Kalaniho'okaha Cope Native Traditional Healing Center. Let's welcome Kamaki.
Aloha kākou. Oh, let me catch my breath. I'm very, very honored to be asked to present this eulogy. Oh. History says of this very, very precious ali'i nui of Hawaii, Ke Kaulike, is that her heart was in the right place to not only preserve and take care of the health and well-being of her people, but she put her wealth where her mouth is. And two examples. On the slopes of Waianae, there's a hospital complex called the Waianae Coast Culture and Arts Society, Inc. Within that complex is a healing center, the only one of its kind in the world. Without Ke Kaulike, that would not exist. She put $1 million down when one morning she came to visit my mother, and they were like sisters, called the house at 6:30 in the morning. Mom panicked because she thought it was one of her children that got sick. And all I heard was, Kamaki, Ke Kau, would you let Auntie Aggie know that I'm coming to Waianae to have breakfast with her? So she came. The two giggled in the corner, and then she came over to me and said, I hear there's a healing center area that's going to be built and named after your mother. I said, yes. Where is it? So I walked her to the edge of a cliff. Today, the healing center, as I said, is the only one of its kind in the entire world. Visitors from all over the world come to look at it and to visit and to try and duplicate it. When Ke Kau visited, came back to see my mother and says, I'm going to make a contribution of $1 million to make sure and to guarantee that this is going to be built. On another occasion of her mana and of her aloha to us, she wanted to always preserve hula. And so she, with George Naope, Iolani Loahine, my mother, and I, and the wonderful lady who I miss, Dottie Thompson, sat together, and Ke Kau says, tell me about what you're going to be putting together. And so they described to her what was to happen in Hilo. She provided the financing so that hula would never fade away. Never fade away. And the matriarch sits here in the audience today, Luana Kavelu, to protect, carrying on the mother's genealogy. But Ohana, if it was not for Ke Kau, none of this would exist, ever. And for that, we will always be grateful. I will miss her very, very much. And I'm so happy that you're all here to honor this very, very precious ali'i. Kia ora. Nice to see you.
Hallelujah, come on. The litany of names that brings to memory how much of an effect the princess has had on all of us. And the names that he mentioned, Auntie Io, Auntie Aggie, they help color the people who we are. So we're grateful. There's probably no greater source of joy in Princess Abigail's life than music. She loved music and she loved musicians. Her parties were always full of music. Her house was always full of music. And when she was feeling down for any reason, her source of comfort was music. And there is no one who got more calls to sing a song than Nina Kalehiwahamana. Nina is the daughter of Vicky E. Rodriguez, and from birth was immersed in the songs and values of old Hawaii. And in the decades of their friendship, no one ever stood her sense of music more than Nina. For today's service, she was asked to pick 2 songs from her years with the princess, and she chose the songs that will follow. We bring up again Nina Kalehiwahamana.
Gift from Helen Sunbeam Beamer. She sang these songs on many occasions for the princess. Oi ka'u e haupua
When the third eulogist was approached, he was told that this was probably the hardest of them in many ways. He was asked to talk about her not as a princess with a powerful lineage, not as a benefactor of Hawaiian causes, and instead as a person and a woman. Aaron Mahi of Makiki Community Church of Christ smiled when he heard the request and then laughed and said, "That is not an easy one." And then he said that he would be honored to do that for her. Aaron Mahi was a longtime leader of the Royal Hawaiian Band, a renowned composer and conductor, and currently a cultural specialist for Partners in Development Foundation. Aaron has asked, and that is in his place, that his nephew present the words that he scripted for us to hear. His nephew, Ka'akaio Ravencraft, if you could please join us.
Ya mahal. E nā lalana ko māko Hawaii apau, aloha mai kako. E nā li I mai ka aina te aurua, nui ka mahalo no ka hiki ana mai ko māko. E ka hoano ia no ko māko ali. No nā ohana, no nā lala o nā mea I kako o ana mai no ka kako Hawaii apau. Aloha mai. E nā lala o iwi ho kahi no ka kako Hawaii apau. Aloha mai kako. Ua piha wau me ka haa. Ke kune wau mā mua o ka aoko. I ko kako ho ano ia no ke ali'i. Ua holohe o kou I ka o lelo hihia. O vau hihia ke manawa. Yeah. How we get entangled with so many of the words that we have to share for ali'i. As my brother Billy had shared with you all, when Bobby called me, I was first stunned that I could come here and share with you my experience, my wonderful experience with Kaylee Kinuiki Kaulike Kawananakoa. You know, you heard the words, the wonderful o ku'auhau, our brother Manu shares, and to hear the names of all those ali'i, how I cannot help but share with you. And I'm going to twist one part of my brother Hailama on the Olelo no Eo. I would say, instead of saying Keali'i, Heali'i, Heali'i, she is our chief. Keali'i, she is the chief. That is what I came to my mind to share with you my experience with her. As you heard, many a time, Kikau would constantly ask questions of the maka'ainana, we who surrounded her, for advice, especially when it came time for seeing to the needs of the people and these all took place. That very act alone showed to me a kind of tenderness, a kind of reality check of her people, all of whom you've heard and have experienced and have become beneficiaries of. And it was in this act of asking the question, how are my people? And she saw us, to depend on us to be the eyes and ears of what was going on in our community, what was going on in our amongst our people. And so on many occasions, many of you, of course, the stories which we tell are ones that, of course, are personal experience. There are many that I would like to share, but there's one in particular, and you've heard by Brother Kamaki and Brother Hailama, about when she came to these points of helping, our people, Kokua, Kalahui, Hawaii. We had just finished a project over at Bishop Museum of reestablishing the room which bore the kahili of our ali'i. And she had put a sizable amount of money in that effort. And when it was all done, typical of our Hawaiian people, and as we've experiencing the songs that have been lifted up in honor of our princess and the traditions we have in our Hawaiian people, there was always a time for a little me'ai, a little ai mama, a little bit of hors d'oeuvre or something we eat. And then, of course, she would always have her case of Don Perignon on the right-hand side, and she would enjoy that mea inu. And then, of course, we would enjoy the selections that we would choose. But then, right away, she would go into the business of asking us the question, where can I help? What can I do? Who needs the help? And as you have heard the testaments before mine, these names were lifted, projects were lifted, and she would listen to that. And by listening to that, then she would contemplate and then take action. This I'm most privileged to have witnessed, that our ali'i was truly Ke ali'i, the chief for our people. Many of you know that she's strict in business and gets to the point right away, as you heard earlier in the testament. Call you 6:30 in the morning, I'm coming down having breakfast. Something like that. Or I want to meet you and I want to talk to you about this project, Tell me about it. But there was also a fun side of Keli'i. I remember once when they were being honored at the Historical Society, and she was there. And she asked Mahi to go to the piano and play "Don't Go Changing to Try to Please Me." And Mahi never sang that song before, but he started playing the piano, and Kekau got up and she danced. This is my interpretation of hula. She can be, forceful and strict and to business. But when she wants to have fun, we all were witnesses of that. And seeing her just enjoy herself. She wasn't trained in hula necessarily, but she danced that on the stage at the Marnak Room at Royal Hawaiian Hotel. And I never forget that, looking at her and saying, he's a Kelly that wants to have fun. And we all know how we like to have fun as Hawaiians. especially after we have a good, some poi and kalupig and whatever, poke and then to enjoy in inu and then just enjoy ourselves. These are the traits of this wonderful ali'i of ours, who was a human being, who was sensitive, who loved and understood her place. When she did that project over there at Bishop Museum and the Kahili Room, it was, the Hawaiians, they used this term, kulana keali'i. Kulana is the state, the position that you hold, and the responsibility that you hold. And as ali'i, that's why you have the kahili. The kahili, of course, gives you that sense of placement, your placement, your title, and your station. But the action is the most important part. And this is where we have all witnessed this, especially myself. And for this I'm most thankful. And so that's why I responded in the affirmative to be here amongst you all in honoring he ali'i, ke ali'i, no ka maka'ainana no ko kako Hawaii apau. Mahalo nui no ko o ko ho'olohi ana mai, no ko hiki ana mai, ka ho'ano ia i ko mako ali'i. Mahalo nui. Mother, then they love you. When you was over there in Hawaiian.
Mahalo, Aaron. Thank you for being here. The closing prayer will be offered by Kahuneri Tiffany of Lanikuhonua. Princess Abigail is a Campbell and was always proud of the lineage of James Campbell and his wife, Chief Ismai Pinipine. And like other Campbell family members, always found great peace at the refuge at Lanikuhonua. If Kahu could join us now.
Spend
Mahalo, Kahuniri. Before we close today, I want to say a word about the two capes that grace the altar. As Hailama explained, the stunning velvet cape speaks to her rank in Haliona'alio, Hawaii. The capes are named Kekaliki Wahine was created following her passing by feather artist Rick San Nicholas to honor her and to accompany her on her final journey as it will be laid on her casket in her tomb. Her tomb, the foundation of which you probably saw as you entered in the Eva Makai corner of Mauna Ala. The already built foundation is covered in black and construction will begin later this week. Her burial will take place at a later date and will be in private. In designing today's service, the primary source was the April 1945 funeral service to her grandmother and adopted mother, Abigail Kawananakoa. That service was brought to a close as we will close this one today with the singing of Hawaii Pone'i and Aloha Oe. We will be led by Nina and Lehulu, and we invite you to stand and sing. The words, should you need them, are on the back of your program. Nina? This brings our service to a close. The family will remain on grounds for a while in case you want to say a few words to them. The area where her tomb will be is marked by the tarp over the construction area and the flowers surrounding it on the grass, largely from yesterday's lying in state at the Iolani Palace. As you leave the grounds, we will present you with a memento of the occasion, this occasion, and a meal to give you sustenance on your way. Mahalo nui, mahalo nui loa, mahalo nui apa loa, mahalo piha to all of you for coming and helping us to celebrate the life of Princess Abigail Kawananakoa. Aloha nui.